Sylvester Stallone walks into a casting office to audition for a dead body in a mob movie when the casting director looks at him for exactly 3 seconds and says, "You're too alive looking to be a corpse." Next, rejected for being too expressive, too present, too human, even when playing dead. What Stallone does in the next 15 seconds doesn't just shock the room into silence. It gets him promoted from corpse to killer, from background extra to speaking role, and creates one of the most legendary audition moments in casting history. This is the story of how being too alive became the greatest compliment, disguised as an insult, how 15 seconds of perfect stillness launched a career, and how a casting director learned that the best actors don't play dead, they play the life that used to be there. Los Angeles, California, September 1974, Wednesday morning, 10:23 a.m. A casting office in Culver City, small production company, low-budget mob film called Capone's War, about gang violence in 1920s Chicago. Small budget means most roles are non-speaking. Background, extras, bodies to fill frames, corpses for crime scenes. The casting call went out 3 days ago, seeking male actors, all ethnicities, 20s 40s, to play dead bodies in multiple scenes. No lines. $50 per day, 3 days of shooting. $50 a day is nothing, but it's $50. And when you have nothing, $50 is everything. Sylvester Stallone sees the casting call on a bulletin board outside a diner in Hollywood, tears off one of the tabs with the address and phone number, doesn't call ahead, just shows up, because calling ahead means they can say no before seeing you. Showing up means they have to deal with you in person. Harder to dismiss someone standing in front of you. Stallone is 28 years old, hasn't worked in 2 months. Last job was 3 days on a TV show. Background work, standing in a crowd scene, made $120, gone in a week. Rent, food, bus fare, always gone faster than it comes. The casting office is on the 2nd floor of a converted warehouse, narrow stairs, peeling paint. The door at the top has a handwritten sign, Capone's War, auditions, extras, sign, in. An arrow points to a clipboard on a folding table. A dozen names already signed, time slots next to each name, all filled. No open slots. Stallone signs his name anyway, doesn't write a time, just his name. Sylvester Stallone, and waits. The waiting area is a hallway with metal folding chairs against the wall. 10 other guys waiting, all ages, all types, all here for the same thing. $50 to play dead. Not glamorous, not prestigious, but work. Proof you're still in the game. Still trying. Still an actor, even if nobody's hiring you to act. The auditions are fast. A guy goes in. 2 minutes later, he comes out. Next guy goes in. 2 minutes out. Next. The casting director isn't wasting time. This is assembly line. Efficient. Brutal. Yes or no. Next. Stallone watches the guys come out. Most look disappointed. A few look relieved. Maybe they got it. Maybe they're on the list. Hard to tell. Nobody's talking. Just leaving. Getting back to the grind. The next audition. The next $50. The next maybe. After 45 minutes, Stallone's turn. His name wasn't on the list, but he waited long enough that the casting assistant just waves him in. Doesn't check the clipboard. Too many people. Too much chaos. Just keep the line moving. The audition room is small. White walls. Fluorescent lights. A camera on a tripod. Not filming. Just there for later. For callbacks maybe. A metal folding table. Behind it, a woman, late 30s, short, dark hair, glasses, black turtleneck, clipboard, pen, the exhausted expression of someone who's seen 50 guys audition to play corpses and still has 30 more to go. Her name is Patricia. Patricia Klein, casting director. Been doing this for 12 years. Started with big studio films, major productions, real budgets. But the work dried up, industry changed. Now she's casting low-budget mob movies, hiring extras to play corpses. Not where she thought she'd be at 38, but here she is. Stallone walks in. Patricia looks up. 3 seconds. That's how long she looks. 3 seconds of assessment, reading body language, face, energy, vibe. Casting directors develop this skill. Instant read. Who fits? Who doesn't? Who's worth time? Who isn't? Patricia says flatly, "You're too alive looking to be a corpse." Stallone stops, stands in the middle of the room, doesn't sit, wasn't invited to sit. He says, "Excuse me." Patricia doesn't look up from her clipboard, already writing something, dismissing him while he's still standing there. "You have too much presence, too much energy in your face. Even standing still, you look too animated. Corpses are supposed to be absent, empty. You're too there, too alive. It won't work. Thank you for coming. Next." She waves toward the door. Dismissal. Clear. Final. Most actors would leave, would accept the rejection, would say thank you and walk out, and add this to the list of hundreds of rejections that pile up in this career. Most actors would internalize it, would think even for a corpse role, "I'm not good enough." Even for playing dead, "I'm too much, too present, too alive." Most actors would let that destroy them a little bit more. Stallone doesn't leave. He stands there, looking at Patricia, who still isn't looking at him, who's already moved on, mentally, already thinking about the next guy, the next corpse, the next $50 day player. Stallone says, "Can I show you something?" Patricia sighs, looks up, annoyed. "I already told you, you're not right for this. Stallone interrupts. "I know what you said. You said I'm too alive. I want to show you that being alive is what makes a corpse interesting." Patricia blinks, not expecting this, not expecting pushback. Extras don't push back. Extras say thank you and leave. That's the hierarchy. That's the system. But something about Stallone's tone, calm, not aggressive, not desperate, just certain, makes Patricia hesitate. She says, "You have 30 seconds. Show me whatever you're going to show me. Then leave." Stallone doesn't respond, just acts. He walks to the center of the room. Empty space. Nothing there, just cheap carpet and fluorescent lights. He looks at Patricia, makes eye contact. Then he lies down, on the floor, on his back, arms at his sides, legs straight. Patricia watches, confused, annoyed, thinking this is a waste of time. Stallone lies completely still, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, doesn't blink, doesn't move. But here's the thing. He's not playing dead, he's playing something else. Something more complicated, something that takes 15 seconds to understand. He's playing a man who used to be alive, who used to have thoughts, emotions, fears, hopes, who used to breathe and move and exist in the world, and then stopped. The transition, the moment between life and absence, not dead, newly dead, the residual presence of someone who was just here and now isn't. His eyes are open, but they're not seeing, focused on nothing. The way eyes look when consciousness leaves, when the person behind the eyes is gone, but the eyes haven't figured it out yet. His face is slack, not forced, not exaggerated, just absent. The micro-expressions that make faces human, gone. The tiny movements of muscles around the mouth, the eyes, the forehead, stopped, completely stopped. His chest, this is the hardest part, breathing without looking like you're breathing. Stallone controls his breath so completely that his chest doesn't rise, doesn't fall. The tiny movement that proves life, invisible. He's shallow breathing, barely pulling air, just enough to stay conscious, but not enough to be visible. 15 seconds pass. Patricia is frozen, staring. She came into this audition, bored, annoyed, ready to move on. But now she's watching something she's never seen before. An actor who's not performing death, who's inhabiting the space between life and death, who's showing her that being too alive is exactly what makes playing dead powerful. Because real corpses were alive once, real bodies in crime scenes, where people had stories, had last moments, had terror or peace or confusion in those final seconds. And if an actor is too dead, too empty, too absent, they're just a prop, just a thing. But if an actor is too alive, if there's residual presence, residual humanity, then the corpse becomes tragic, becomes a story, becomes something the camera wants to linger on. Stallone holds it. 15 seconds. Doesn't break, doesn't move, doesn't blink. The room is completely silent. Patricia isn't breathing. The casting assistant who is sitting in the corner isn't breathing. Time suspends. Then Stallone blinks. Once. Slow. Returns. The presence comes back into his eyes. The micro-expressions return to his face. His chest rises visibly. He's alive again. He sits up. Stands. Brushes off his pants. Looks at Patricia. Says simply, "A corpse who used to be somebody you wanted dead. I gave you dead who was alive." That's acting. Patricia's mouth is open. She closes it. Opens it again. Can't find words. She's been casting for 12 years. Seen thousands of actors. Good actors. Bad actors. Weird actors. Desperate actors. But she's never seen someone do what Stallone just did. Turn a rejection into a demonstration. Turn too alive into the exact reason he should be cast. Patricia says quietly, "What's your name?" Stallone says, "Sylvester Stallone." Patricia writes it down, not on the extra list, on a different page, a page with 5 other names, the speaking roles page. She says, "That wasn't playing dead. That was, I don't even know what that was. But it wasn't extra work. That was character work. That was storytelling in 15 seconds, with no lines, no direction, just you and the floor." Stallone doesn't respond, just waits. Patricia looks at her notes, looks at Stallone, looks at her notes again, calculating, rethinking. The film has a small role, a hitman, 3 scenes, maybe 10 lines. They've been struggling to cast it. Seen 40 guys, nobody right. Too theatrical, too obvious, too actor playing tough guy. They need someone real, someone who carries violence naturally, someone who can be still and threatening at the same time. Patricia says, "We have another role. It's not a corpse. It's a hitman. Small part, 3 scenes, 10 lines. It pays $500. We've been trying to cast it for 2 weeks. Nobody's right. I think you might be right." Stallone's heart is pounding, but his face doesn't show it. Stays calm. Says, "I'd like to read for it." Patricia shakes her head. "I don't need you to read. I just watched you do more acting in 15 seconds than most people do in a full scene. You're not playing a corpse. You're playing the guy who makes corpses. If you want it, it's yours. Stallone says, I want it. Patricia says, good. Leave your contact information with my assistant. We'll send you the sides. Shooting starts in 2 weeks. Congratulations. And Sylvester, don't ever let anyone tell you you're too alive. That's your superpower. That's what makes you dangerous on screen. That's what I just saw. Stallone leaves, gives his information to the assistant, walks down the narrow stairs, out into the Los Angeles morning. The sun is bright, brutal, hot, but it feels different, feels like validation, feels like proof. He came in to play a corpse for $50 a day. He's leaving with a speaking role for $500 because he refused to accept rejection, because he turned an insult into a challenge, because he showed a casting director that being too alive isn't a flaw, it's the whole point. 2 weeks later, the film shoots. Stallone shows up, does his scenes. 3 scenes, 10 lines. The director, an older guy named Frank, watches Stallone's first take and says to Patricia, where did you find this guy?
He doesn't act like he's acting.
He just is. Patricia says, he auditioned to be a corpse. I told him he was too alive. He showed me I was wrong, or right. I'm still not sure which. Frank says, whatever he is, he's got something real. Keep his information. We'll use him again. The film wraps, releases 6 months later. Small release, barely distributed. Most people never see it, but a few critics notice. Stallone, small mentions. An actor named Sylvester Stallone brings unexpected presence to a minor role. Watch for Stallone. He's got screen presence that transcends his limited screen time. Not life-changing, but noticed. And in Hollywood, being noticed is the first step, the crack in the door, the beginning. More importantly, Patricia keeps Stallone's information, calls him for other projects, small roles, background that becomes foreground, extra work that becomes character work, because she remembers the guy who was too alive to play dead, who turned rejection into redefinition. One of those projects is The Lords of Flatbush, 1974. Stallone gets cast. Bigger role, real character. The film doesn't make much money, but it gets Stallone seen, starts building a reel, starts building credibility. 20 years later, 1994, Patricia is teaching a casting workshop, USC Film School, teaching students how to cast, how to see actors, how to trust instinct. She tells the story, the corpse audition, the rejection, the 15 seconds, the hitman role, the career that started with "You're Too Alive." A student asks, did you know he'd become famous? Did you see that potential? Patricia says, no, I didn't see future star. I saw something more important. I saw an actor who understood that presence matters, that stillness isn't absence, it's controlled presence, that being too much isn't a flaw if you know how to use it. I saw someone who refused to accept my limitation, who showed me I was looking at the role wrong. That's rare. That's what separates people who have long careers from people who quit. Another student asks, do you regret telling him he was too alive, that he wasn't right? Patricia smiles, no, because my rejection forced him to prove me wrong, forced him to show me something I couldn't see until he demonstrated it. If I just said yes, you're hired as a corpse, he'd have made $50 and disappeared. But saying no, you're too alive, made him fight, made him show me what too alive actually means. And that fight, that refusal to accept my no, that's what got him the better role. That's what launched the career. Patricia pauses. I tell young casting directors, sometimes the best thing you can do is say no wrong. Say no in a way that forces the actor to prove you wrong. Because the actors who can do that, who can turn your rejection into their demonstration, those are the ones worth casting, not the ones who accept no, the ones who redefine it. After the workshop, Patricia gets a package delivered to her office at USC. Inside a framed photograph, Stallone, lying on a floor, eyes open, playing dead, taken on a film set years later. Professional photograph, high quality, museum-worthy. A note attached. To Patricia, you told me I was too alive to play dead. You were right, but you were also wrong, because being alive is what makes death mean something. Thank you for rejecting me. Thank you for giving me 15 seconds to prove it. That rejection became my career. That's not an insult. That's a gift. Sully. Patricia hangs the photograph in her office, next to her awards, next to her credits, next to everything that proves she's successful. But that photograph means more, because it's not about success. It's about the moment, the audition, the rejection, the 15 seconds that changed two careers. Stallone's, as an actor, Patricia's, as a casting director, who learned to recognize that too much is often exactly right. 40 years later, the story is still told. Film schools, acting classes, casting seminars, the corpse audition, the time Sylvester Stallone was rejected for being too alive and turned it into a promotion. And every time it's told, someone asks, what did he do exactly in those 15 seconds? The answer is always the same. He stopped performing, stopped trying to show Patricia what she wanted to see, and started showing her what she needed to see. He didn't play dead, he played the memory of being alive, and that's what made him unforgettable. 15 seconds, one rejection, one demonstration, one career launched. Not because Stallone was the best actor in the room, because he was the only actor who refused to let too alive be an insult, who turned it into a challenge, who showed that presence isn't the opposite of death. It's what makes death tragic. Patricia was right. Stallone was too alive to be a corpse, but that's exactly why he became a star, because being too alive means you can't disappear, can't fade into background, can't be dismissed, can't be forgotten. You take up space, you command attention, you make people see you, even when they don't want to, even when they've already decided you're wrong for the role, even when they've already said no. That's not a flaw. That's power. That's presence. That's being too alive to die. What role are you auditioning for that people say you're too much for, too alive for, too present for, too different for? What rejection are you accepting that should be challenged? What no are you hearing that should be redefined? What 15 seconds could you use to prove someone wrong? Because Sylvester Stallone walked into a casting office to play a corpse and walked out playing a killer, not because he was better at playing dead, because he was too alive to stay dead, too present to disappear, too much to be minimized. Patricia said, "You're too alive." She meant it as a rejection. Stallone heard it as a challenge, turned it into an opportunity, transformed insult into identity. 15 seconds. That's all it took. 15 seconds of being so still, so controlled, so present, that too alive became the exact reason to cast him. That's not auditioning. That's alchemy, turning rejection into gold, turning flaw into feature, turning wrong for the role into perfect for the better role. September 1974. A casting office in Culver City. A rejection, a demonstration, a promotion. The corpse who was too alive, the actor who refused to die, the 15 seconds that proved being too much is exactly enough.